Armando Pantoja, you've become a celebrity in ways I guess I'm suspecting you didn't suspect. I'd love I'd love to
No,
hear you built an amazing audience as someone who's an expert on stocks and crypto, investing in general, and a lot about the right attitude in life, not only about investing, but about life in general. Love to hear your story, Armando, about your career path and how you got here. And although you're very young, sounds like you've done a whole lot.
yeah, the key was to start early, right? So that's why I tell a lot of people that are younger is that you have to start early because you can go through you can iterate through those failures, learn from them early, and then you can start to achieve stuff when you're relatively young. So I always tell people.
So tell me, how did you go from being a software engineer to being a tall guy tycoon?
Oh, that's a story. So, and that, like I said, is I always tell my kids when they say I want to be something when I grow up. I said, well, you never know what life is going to take you because I never would have expected this. So I've always loved computers. I've always been, just in love with the future. Back to the Future movies. I mean, studying. Even as a kid, I used to read the World Book back in the '60s and '70s, and they used to have a future book, and it would talk about where the world is going over the next 5, 10 years. And they would release a new edition every year. And I would love to read those books, right? And as a kid, I even did that. So I love to try to figure out what was coming next, what were the big innovations, what were the big technologies that would change how we work, live, and play. So when I went to school, I mean, they didn't have a futurism, degree. It was a software engineering. That's the closest thing you can get to it. So I studied software engineering at Austin P State. And I did that for 4 years. Then I went and played basketball for the 2 years. But then I came back and I was like, I better get into software engineering. So I came back to Nashville and worked at a company called EdgeNet. At the time, it was an emerging AI company. It was, 2007, 2008. Now, this compared to AI today, it was completely different, right? AI at that time was used more like expert systems in which they would be able to uh, diagnose diseases, or like in this case with EdgeNet, it sounds simple now compared to AI as it is now with ChatGPT. But what we did at EdgeNet is that if you went to Home Depot and Lowe's, we licensed our software to Home Depot and Lowe's. So if you went in and you asked for a custom window or door, we would configure those, and then we would check with the factory to see if the configuration was even available. So it would make sure that you didn't configure a window or door that the factory couldn't produce. So the company EdgeNet actually licensed that software to Home Depot, and I worked for the company. So in 2008 came, and of course that was it happened in 2007. I guess it was a precursor to the 2008 housing crisis. Is that all of a sudden they laid off like half of us? They said the demand for that software was not as high as it was in previous years because it was related to how the new houses are going to have increase the demand for windows and doors. So I got laid off, and then when I got laid off, I was like, man, I don't ever want to get laid off again. I didn't like the feeling of being like, just almost like people say when you have a job, it's low risk, but actually it's high risk because you have one person that can make a decision and your whole life has changed. So I started developing a software on my own and, all these other things. Then I said, well, I think I want to go back to grad school. So I looked online, and the number one grad school at the time, and it still is today, it was for AI and software development, was University of South Florida. So I came down to Florida. That's where I'm at now. So in 2010, I really wanted to study, AI and software engineering. So I get to school in that, the first day they asked me, what do you want to major in? I said, software engineering, of course. They said, what specialty? And I said, well, I looked at all the specialties. I saw some software security and cryptography. So I got into that. So the first year I meet some guys and they're talking about cryptocurrency. I'm like, what is this? So I started getting into cryptocurrency at the time. Now, before that, I traded stocks, but never really traded stocks, right? I traded, but then cryptocurrency, I started getting into that because I was studying the underlying technology of cryptocurrency, which is cryptography. That's just how I got in extraordinarily early. So I went through one cycle where, 2013, and it crashed. Then 2015, it started coming back and it crashed again in 17. So before the 17 crash, when I had a lot of Bitcoin, a lot, and
That
when
you
I
bought on your own through your own savings.
yeah, dude, I acquired from 2011, 2013. So 2013 came, there was something called Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox at the time was the biggest cryptocurrency exchange in the world. It got hacked. So all the
Yes.
media said that, Bitcoin was an experiment and it was over. So I sold my hundreds of Bitcoin, just got rid of it all. So 2014, 15, and 16, crypto started coming back. And I'm like, why is this? Why did that happen? Like,
Yeah.
why did the media tell me this? That's how I got into understanding market cycles and how money and capital flows in and out of companies, right? So 2018, I'm sorry, 17, I created a company called ICO Ranker. And what that company did is it tracked how capital flowed in and out of the crypto market, specifically on what was called ICOs at the time. And it would predict the success of different cryptocurrencies. So we got acquired in
Now,
2018.
you're looking at crypto exchange. You wrote the software.
Yes.
And where are you getting your data inputs to track it?
Where we got that data from is that there was data providers at the time that would give you data on ICOs, and it would come in an Excel worksheet, and it would give you all the data points of each ICO that was successful, and it would tell you their team members. It would tell you I think it was like 176 data points they would give us, and we would feed that data into like Azure, Microsoft Azure AI, and we would just say basically it was a rudimentary form of AI. It would say, take this data, these are all the successful cryptos.
Yep.
Now compare this and give us a score of what this cryptocurrency that's being developed could do based on the success of all these previous cryptos that are like this one. And it would give us a score 0 to 100. And that's what we would publish on the site.
And what was your revenue model for that business?
So the revenue model was the data was free, but we charged for two things. We charged for subscriptions. Some people just wanted, inside information. We didn't make most of our revenue came from advertising, right? Is that so on the page we'd have ads on the side, and the second form of revenue, which was also a big revenue, is that if you didn't like your score, you can do what we call a full analysis, and we would have somebody sit down with you, and you could tell us, we would walk you through on what you could fix to get your score higher. At the time, it was the third biggest site on the planet. So it was very important for your score to be high on that site. So for example, if let's say you didn't publish, let's say, for example, like a roadmap on your website, there was no roadmap link. We would say, well, your score will be increased by 10% if you included a roadmap on your website, these things like that. And then once you fix it, you send it us and we'd update the data, and then your score would go up, based on that. So people paid for that. But the number one driver really was ads.
And who were your advertisers? Who wants to be positioned next to that ranking of the 176 different crypto exchanges there?
Okay, so each individual crypto had its own page, but we also had a main page in which you can browse and look for them. And on that main page, we had a header banner and two side banners. And on every individual page, we had a banner at the bottom. So a person that, let's say, for example, you were running an ICO, and you just wanted your ICO to be everywhere, because people in those days, ICOs were initial coin offerings. So what they would do is that's a way to raise capital. It's kind of like a reverse way.
Is that the same as a miner?
No, it's a little bit different. So back then, it's like NFTs, but so what an ICO was an initial coin offering, much like an IPO in stocks.
Yep.
So companies would get created, and it was like a reverse model, is that you would put out an idea first. You would raise capital based on that idea, and then you would take the capital and build it out. It's not like an IPO is that you already have the idea and you're just going to go public.
Right.
So it was a reverse model. And back then that was very popular. It ended up that model wasn't a really good model for business development, because the founders got their exits at the beginning. So they had no incentive. But at the time, we really thought it was an innovative way to do business back in 17, 18. So that was all the hype in crypto at that time. And like I said, I didn't know either. I thought it was a good idea, but looking back, it was a bad idea because you got your money up front. But that was the way. And our company was the third biggest company in the world that really aggregated that data for investors.
So you've steeped yourself in this world. You give people lots of advice. Give us some general thoughts about where we are in the state of blockchain and the crypto world built on top of it. Where do you, as you look out ahead, what do you see happening next? What are you excited about? What are you concerned about?
So every technology goes through 4 phases, right? The world is shocked by this new technology. We call it the shock phase. Then the second phase is that investors get in, it's the markup phase. So that's when the institutional investors come in and capital flows into it. Then we get to the bubble phase, right? Is that when the bubble bursts. But after the bubble bursts, there's the second half of that model. is that it's the build out. And the build out normally is silent. We don't see that. Like if you look at the dot-com boom in 2000, we had about a 4-year period in which all the stocks went up. There was a lot of hype in the dot-com market and dot-com stocks and assets. Then there was a crash in 2000. Well, most of the development in the internet that we have today, the vast majority of it happened in the 15 years after that, right? That's when we, because back in 2000, the internet was still basic. There was not a lot going on. There was no Web 2.0. There was no social media. There was no apps. None of that. All that happened afterwards when it was quiet, when people started to look away. And I believe that that's what we're moving into with blockchain and crypto, is that we're moving into that silent phase in which it's not going to be very exciting. It's not going to be, you can make 10 times your money in one day, like we had back with all those meme coins. It's going to be silent growth over the next 5 to 10 years. And then when you look at where we are today versus where we'll be in 10 years, you'll be shocked by the price difference, but it's not going to happen. It's going to be slight and gradual over that time period. I think that's what we're moving into.
Although a fellow I'm a fan of, Tom Lee, thinks we still have some pretty explosive growth in Bitcoin and Ethereum in just the months ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I could see his point. I just think that I think I would disagree on that. And I'm not trying to be a pessimist, but I don't think there's enough time left in the year. We're already in November. And also we've had both of those assets should be a lot higher than they are now, a lot higher. But with the
why is that?
Because if you look at institutional growth, if you look at how institutional capital has flowed into both Ethereum and Bitcoin, if you've looked just at the news and the headlines that we've had over the last year, they've been the best headlines we've ever had in crypto. The United States has approved it. The SEC has backed off significantly. Trump himself, the sitting president, has endorsed and adopted Bitcoin and Ethereum as well. We've had an Ethereum ETF that was approved this year. I mean, these things, if you would have told me 5 years ago, I wouldn't even believe these things would have happened. And they've all happened in a year's period, but also in that same year, we've had crazy uncertainty. We've had wars, tariff wars.
Public policy apparently matters, huh?
All of that. So it's pulled the optimism and the hype down from cryptocurrency this entire year, because a lot of money flowed into gold. So it should be, if it wasn't for that uncertainty, I believe that Bitcoin would be past 250, Ethereum would be over 10,000. But unfortunately, we've had a lot of that uncertainty.
Well, as I try and understand what Tom Lee is doing, and please help me with this, Tom Lee with BitMine is saying we already committed, we've raised capital, not in debt markets, but in the equity markets, in the form of equity rather. And in the equity markets, they've committed to buying steadily a percentage of the float of Ethereum every day. And it seems like that's saying, hey, Michael Saylor, you had a good idea with your company to turn it into a company that uses its rigor, its balance sheet, its borrowing capacity, its ongoing momentum as a business, to borrow money to use to buy a prescribed percentage of all the Bitcoin available out there. And that drives a valuation for the enterprise, for the stock of that enterprise, MicroStrategy, a premium over and above what the underlying Bitcoin is. So it looks to me like a smart guy like Tom Lee and the people behind him said, well, if Michael did a really clever thing there with Bitcoin, why don't we do the same thing with Ethereum? But let's commit to how much we're going to buy over what period of time, and do it actually as a percentage of all the Ethereum available, do it at a higher pace than Michael Saylor did with Bitcoin. Is that oversimplified?
Yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of people are doing now. And I think, I don't think it's oversimplified. I think what Michael Saylor is doing is very simple. It's not rocket science. It's that he raises capital, he invests in the Bitcoin, the value of the company goes up. So then he's able to raise more capital to buy more Bitcoin. It's a cycle that's going. And I think that model is being repeated, especially with Ethereum. There's a couple of companies out there doing it now. And I think that it's smart models now, because what I've just said is that we will see appreciation over all the top cryptos over the next 5 to 10 years. And they will far exceed stocks or any other asset, I believe.
Hi, I'm Jim McCann.
And I'm George Everly Jr.
Together we embarked on a quest to co-write Lodestar. That journey began with countless hours of researching the most impactful self-help books out there.
Once we had our picks, we combined the science with the practical.
The result of our journey? The creation of a one-stop shop for the best of the best in self-help. So if you're looking to boost your career, build stronger relationships, or simply become the best version of yourself, Lodestar is here to guide you on your path. Mm-hmm. So, Armando, you're a popular young man. You must be asked all the time by people in your online communities and when you speak in public or you're out in public. Young guy, because what he said, I just graduated from college. I really didn't study much, and if anything, about AI because the courses really weren't offered. What do you tell them in terms of where they should go and look for career opportunities? Clearly, this is going to be so disruptive. I'm sensing in a marketplace that those entry-level jobs have already dissipated to quite a degree. I'm hearing from young people every week, I've been out since May. I don't have any prospects for a job. I'm working a hostess in a restaurant, not what I wanted to do. That's not why I went to school for 4 years and spent all that money. What advice are you giving to young people now about how they should sharpen their skills, what they should be looking at, and how do they find their way in their career paths?
First, I want to say is that you should not be afraid of AI at all. You should embrace it as much as you can. Learn the prompts, how to use AI, how to use it in all systems, because those skills are going to be just as valuable as if we look at another transitionary period, is that when personal computers came to the workplace, and even if you go back a little farther, typewriters, right, is that for a 10 or 15 year period, the speed at which you typed was an asset that you can tell, an employer, I can type this many words a minute. Now, if you look at, we don't say that anymore. You're expected to, know how to type and type at a certain speed. If you can't, then you can't work.
As an old guy, when I was in high school in Brooklyn and we were told we're taking typing classes, when are we ever going to use this typing skill? I think that's been answered.
Yeah, but I mean, we're in a similar transitionary period is where right now it's a skill to understand AI.
And you mentioned a term, how to prompt properly. Who would have thought 24 months ago that being a good prompt engineer would be essential to be able to use these tools?
Yeah, it's just a higher level really software development, right? Is that you give a series of instructions to an AI model, and then you expect an output. It's basically programming, except at a higher, more like language, English language based model. It's the same as programming. It's that you have these certain skill sets. You have a skill set to be able to put these words together to get the right output. And that is a skill now. And then in 5 to 10 years, it won't be an asset. It'll be something you'll have to have. Now, if you look at every innovation, all the way back from railroads to cars and everything, even personal computers, the internet, when it was transitioning over during the transitionary period, a lot of jobs were lost, right? But if you look at it over a longer period of time, more jobs were created than were lost in the first place. And I think that's what's going to happen.
Just in different areas,
it's
right?
just different areas, right? Is that even when personal computers came into being, a lot of secretaries lost their jobs. We didn't need them anymore. So then a lot of other jobs got created, right? Even if you look at like a lot of artists are afraid that AI is going to take their jobs, right? Now, if you go back, let's go all the way back to, let's say, the 1900s when there were painters and they painted people that were like sitting down, for a portrait. So as we move forward, we had computer animated graphics, right? Is that when that came out in the 80s, a lot of artists did lose their jobs. If you go back, if you ever watched the show Mad Men, there were artists who drew out those magazine articles before that. I mean, those magazine ads, they actually drew those things. When computers came out, we no longer needed them. So they lost their jobs, but so many other jobs got created by the innovation. Then we moved on to the internet. The internet displaced a lot of people, but so many other jobs were created because of that. So every time we've had a great innovation, instantly there's been jobs. Because, it's disruption because we're changing over. And then more jobs. Then I believe that's what's going to happen with AI is that jobs that we can't even conceive of, like me and you were talking, we can't even think of them. They're going to get created all from AI.
The difference with something like OpenAI's ChatGPT, Armando, seems to me that this is the first technology where you can sit down and ask it, how do I best learn how to use you?
Yeah.
These are my skills. How do I sharpen my skills so that my skills are keeping pace with the evolution, or call it revolution, in terms of the disruption we're seeing? This is the tool you can ask.
Yeah, and like I've always been amazed is that sometimes people will ask questions even before AI that are available in Google. Like people still ask questions. It's still lack of knowledge, even though you can go to Google and find this stuff. I think that there's still an opportunity is that sometimes people have to be trained to in their thought processes to use AI in how they think. Because even with Google, a lot of people, it still amazes me that people don't know stuff, and people will ask questions that they can just. People will actually go under some of my posts.
There are no more unanswered questions.
No, yeah, right. People will go into my post sometime and say, "Can you explain this more?" I'm like, the time you spent asking that under the post, you could have put it in the ChatGPT. But there's a disconnect there, right? Is that people don't even think to do it.
Yeah. So you've been involved in this world for a while. You're a thought leader. Give us some forecasting. What do you see happening? This is we're nearing the end of 2025. Some of the things that you think might happen in 2026 that our community should be have on their radar screen.
I think we'll have a serious breakthrough in quantum computing. We had the Willow
Gee,
chip
yeah.
last year, but that wasn't serious. I mean, like when ChatGPT was made commercially available in 2023, that was a shock to
22,
the
wasn't
world.
it?
People were
Yeah,
shocked at
20.
how
Yep.
far AI was, and I think we're going to see a similar shock with quantum computation in
Mm-hmm.
26. And I think that's going to change. Like ChatGPT kind of changed everything. Business leaders thought differently. Workers got thought differently. Even industries changed because of that innovation. But I think quantum computing is going to be something that happens sometime probably late 26. That just some companies, I don't know who, probably one company is going to create something or have a breakthrough that will change everything this year. And I've been thinking that for the last 3 or 4 years. I said 2026. I thought would be the year that a breakthrough would happen.
And when you say quantum computing, who will have access to that compute?
I don't know. So that's the key question is that we have to make sure that everybody has access to it because we can't have one single person with that type of power because
Mm.
that type of power will take an AI model and it could make it thousands of times faster, thousands of times what we call smarter, I guess, than it is today. And that's what can push us to, right now we have AI, but there's also AGI, artificial general intelligence. And we have something even
Yep.
farther, super artificial intelligence, in which we can't even conceive of we can't even understand what the model is doing anymore because it's past our intelligence level. And I think
Mm-hmm.
quantum computers can take us through those two to super intelligence.
Well, if you look at the good side of that, the things that come to mind are medical treatment, diagnosis should improve dramatically, ability to read images, diagnose problems before maybe they're apparent. So that's on the good side of the ledger. On the scary side, at least I don't have an answer for it or guess at it, that would make me concerned is how do you protect passwords when quantum can break any
Yeah,
security
that's the problem is that but with technology, if you've noticed over, whenever a new technology comes out, usually the defenses for that, the offense and defense of that technology develops alongside each other. So once we have that breakthrough, we'll also have quantum encryption or another form of encryption that will be stronger than
system?
the technology itself. So I'm not worried too much about that. It can't happen all at once. Like if today we had a breakthrough and we didn't have that defensive breakthrough, yeah, it would break every crypto wallet on the planet. But I don't believe that's the way it's going to develop. It will normally develop alongside because some company out there, and there's a few I know of, are developing defenses as we speak to
Mm-hmm.
combat that once that happens. So I think passwords as we know them will be obsolete because
Will it be biometric or something else?
biometric or something like that. Like passwords are already based. Even we don't have quantum computation really at a level that we can use. But if you think about it, password like when you log into a website, uh, they make you do these crazy combinations. That's because computers are
Yes.
getting faster and because we
Mm-hmm.
can go brute force. And then they also add third and fourth factor
Form.
authentication on
Yep.
it because it's already a sign that authentication system is breaking down.
What I don't understand about crypto itself, Armando, is there's only going to be so many coins in each of the cryptos, in each of the currencies. So do they just keep fractionalizing each of those coins so it gets out to many, many digits of decimals?
Yeah, so those decimal
I
places are
don't
built
understand
into
the
the code.
basic currency. If there's only going to be X number of coins, yet transactions are going on all the time for fractions of the coins, how does the numeric splitting of those coins take place?
So it's just like any other number. It's just perception. Really, is that that decimal place doesn't really matter, right? Is that Bitcoin? You can have 100 million Bitcoin, 100 million fractions of a Bitcoin are in every Bitcoin. So we
Yes.
can break that down to a small amount called a Satoshi. So that's the smallest unit of a Bitcoin we can have. Now, what's going to happen in the future is that as Bitcoin grows, or it's already at a point where psychologically it's too expensive for the average person. So they
Yes.
look at it and say, well, I can't afford $100,000 Bitcoin. That's something for rich people. I got to stay out of it. But as the price of Bitcoin continues to go up, what happens with people is that it starts creating a divide between people and mentally they see it as too expensive. And it happens in stocks too. That's why we do stock splits. One of the biggest
Mm-hmm.
reasons we split stocks is one of two reasons.
For
One is to increase
psychological, right?
liquidity, but two is the psychological effect of splitting a stock. Is that you
Mm-hmm.
take an Nvidia that's at 1,000, you split it 10-1. Now you have a
Wait a minute.
group.
They just did that about 18 months ago.
Yeah, they did. But from somebody who really understands it, really don't make us. It doesn't matter really.
Yeah.
But to new investors or maybe an unsavvy investor, it makes a difference because for one, they feel like now they can get into it. It's not too expensive, even
Mm-hmm.
though it's only it's like taking a pizza and then cutting every slice in half. I mean, it's the same pizza, but people don't
Yes.
perceive it
Yes.
as that. And two, it increases liquidity because now there's more units and also it's easier to trade. So with Bitcoin, one day in the future, we're going to have to denominate it as a lower amount. And all that
Mm.
it requires is just moving the decimal. That's it. Like that's all it takes.
You don't live in fear that Mr. Nakamoto designed all of this, and then at some point he's going to say, when the last coin is mined, ha ha, only kidding, and it's all gone.
Yeah, I
You
mean
don't worry about that, huh?
that's a problem too because after big in 2000, I think 2140, that's when the halvings end. So
Mm-hmm.
that there should be no incentive after that to even mine Bitcoin anymore. But they'll have to change something before that happens. So
Now, one thing we hear a lot about, and I'm sure you have a point of view on, is tokenization. And when I say tokenization, what I think I understand is take a piece of art. People can say, okay, we're going to create 100 tokens that represent 100% of the ownership of the Mona Lisa. And people can buy that. And there's a blockchain that keeps track of those 100 coins and who the owners are and what its provenance is. That is, the series of transactions. If it's sold 10 times, who each of the owners were, and there's a registered, online, undisputable chain of passage of that ownership. And now you can prove your ownership. But the idea that you can use tokenization to divide a real estate, an apartment house, and you can have a token claim on the profit of the first 10 floors and a tokenization on the claim of the profit on the second 10 floors for that 20-story apartment building. But could you apply tokenization to Bitcoin too?
I mean, there are wrapped Bitcoin out there, and that's similar to that. But you can apply it to it if you. That's what a wrapped Bitcoin is. Is that there's a so you can
I
have.
haven't heard that term before.
Yeah,
Wrapped
so that
Bitcoin?
you can wrap a currency. So what you do is you take one currency like Bitcoin. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say you have one
Yep.
Bitcoin, and you say, well, I want to fraction it out even more. It's not enough. I want to take
Mm-hmm.
one Bitcoin and make 1 billion units.
Yeah.
So you take one Bitcoin and you hold it just like you would in a treasury or a trust, and then you say, well, this new crypto represents this one Bitcoin, but I'm going to make 1 billion
Mm-hmm.
units. And now each unit is relative to the
The
fraction.
original one
Yeah,
coin.
the
Yeah.
fraction of that one coin. So they do that already with wrapped currencies.
So, how do you spend your time, Armando, now? You have this big community. You're smart about so many aspects of the new world, the blockchain, all the different kinds of cryptocurrencies, things like wrapped cryptocurrencies, tokenization. How do you keep up? What's your routine like?
So I stay on top of the news, and that's the first thing I do every morning. Is I spend about 45 minutes, an hour, just reading what's happening. And people
Where do you
don't.
go?
Go ahead.
Where do you go? Where do you
Yahoo
read?
Finance, just Yahoo or Google. Yahoo because it's not because it's better. It's just because that's what I've been doing since I was a teenager. Yahoo News was like. So I look at Google News, Yahoo News, and just see
How
what's
about
happening.
Reddit? Reddit a
Rooter,
part of your inputs?
go ahead.
Reddit?
I don't go to Reddit much. That's not something I look at. But and then one of the things about having such a big follower base is that I'll get messages. I'll wake up in the morning and have several messages. People ask me, "What do you think about this?" And really,
So it's a two-way street.
yeah, it's like a two-way street. And what's a signal to me is that if multiple people send me the same thing,
Yeah.
then I realize that it must be something big. Then I'll go down that hole and research it more. I've actually, been able to predict hype in certain stocks and cryptos because I'll wake up in the morning and I'll have 8 messages about the same crypto, and then I'm like, well, even if it's, and I'll research it more and I'll find, that's a signal that hype is about to enter the market on that asset. So, they help me out a lot, but I read a lot of news and everything too. It's not just about because people don't, some people realize it, but some don't, is that the whole world is interrelated. Every little thing is like interrelated. So if there's a war in Venezuela that's supposedly happening, that's going to affect everything. It's going to trickle down into the entire economy and even everything else. So you have to almost stay on top of everything because it's all interrelated. And also, I read a lot of books, and I still read a lot. I'm writing I just finished one book, but I'm writing a second book it's going to be released.
What was the one you
year.
just finished about?
It was called The Strategic Millionaire. And it talks about how to apply 7 laws of wealth, but it's mostly focuses on how to predict yourself for trends, how to think strategically, how to get yourself ahead of the masses. That's really what I've realized in my life is that the people who are wealthier are the people who position themselves ahead of everybody else. They didn't wait. They didn't sit around. They were brave enough and bold enough to go out ahead. And
So they're looking at the tea leaves and all the inputs, and then they're making their own educated guess with inputs, all the inputs like you have, to say, this is where I think the world is going.
Exactly.
If it's correct, how should I be positioning my assets?
Exactly.
And what are your inputs in terms of revenue streams in your business now?
So we do have the community, but that's something that actually this year it kind of became a major revenue stream for me. It was like something I was doing on the side before because I have an investment company here in Tampa called Quant Index, private equity. I also have real estate. I also have other things. I have another site called Market Gravity, and we've been developing that for this year. And I have other smaller businesses, small real estate projects, stuff like that. But it all like adds up into, what I consider my income. But I do have the community called Chestnut Checkers Community. It formed during COVID, and it was something that the members themselves created. And so I put it together, and I said, at first it was just something we were doing on the side, but it has grown into a community with 2,500 members. We now do events. We also have chapters that are starting in, so it's something that I didn't expect to grow. It was something that, the members kind of took themselves, but it has grown. And we have done a lot of great things over the last couple of years.
Good for you. Well, you've certainly been generous with your time today. You have new fans here at 1-800-Flowers following you in several different social media activities, and I can see why you got such a huge following. You're nice, you're smart, and you're really giving of your time and your knowledge. So thanks for sharing it with us today.
I don't know if I said it, but it's an honor being here with you as well. I never thought when I was younger that I'd be talking to the founder of 1-800-Flowers. Like, as a kid, those people, especially in a small town from Tennessee, people like you are like way up here, and like we're like, so it's actually amazing speaking to you.
Now we just want to get to your level. Thanks, Armando. You're the best.